What is my This is Spectrum here, and welcome back to another episode of Our Life. And our life has been pretty good so far, I would say, at least. I would hope so. Again, we're just still getting a feel of the game, and I like how we go through moments. It kind of does remind me of how Camp Buddy in the same way of that feature, where except in Camp Buddy you can only go through one, at least if my memory serves me correctly, because it's been a while since we played Camp Buddy due to things aka losing my last channel. But it does remind me in that same way, because we have time to spend during the day and we can spend doing an activity. If we stay on a certain character's route, we get to spend activities with that person, you know. It's similar to that sense is what I'm trying to say. But the difference is that we're spending activities there, but for this we're spending moments in time, in this case moments in our summer life of, well, I don't know how old we are at this point. We're definitely, you know, we're kids. We're in elementary school is my guess, I'm assuming. But anyways, let's see what the next moment is. I wish we could probably, second time around, we'll get to the next half. I'll definitely buy this DLC. I don't think there's any doubt. So we're just gonna choose a random one. We're gonna choose grown up, I guess. Yeah, we'll say the best for last, and we'll say that's Sandcastle. One sweltering summer day, you were in your living room with Cove, listening to the sounds of birds chattering outside the window while you lay across the rug on the floor. Cove's dad had dropped in off earlier, and your moms had left the two of you, along with Lizzie, to play amongst yourselves. Oh, I thought they were gonna say, you know, play Among Us. I'm like, oh well, something's gonna break, I think. But it had been too hot outside to go in the afternoon, at least according to mommy. So your sister is starting to get impatient waiting for her golf class that evening. The three of you had trouble finding something fun to do. The beach and the playground were off limits, and you felt it was too warm for anything like playing with your fuzzy toy animals. Then suddenly a light came to Lizzie's big brown beautiful eyes, and her smile spread wide across her face. Having an idea gave her a new wave of energy. Since we're stuck inside, we should be adults. They don't play outdoors anyway, so they're always inside telling everybody they're too busy to play. Lizzie, you don't know the gist of it. I said why, and it'll be fun. Duh. What do they do that we don't, besides use the phone a lot? Excluding a small huff, Lizzie decides to ignore Cove. Brett, what do you think? Do you want to? I mean, I don't know. It's like, as a kid, I legitimately, I don't know, but as an adult, I'm like, I don't know. You have to, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Please, Brett. Whenever I ever said I had a bad idea, whenever we play with you, I wasn't asking you. Yeah, I'll try, but that does sound boring. It's gonna be. It's not gonna be. I guarantee it. Lizzie seemed more determined than ever, and you could only sigh. Satisfied that neither of you were about to bail on her, Lizzie thought over her options while you watched. After a few seconds, she clapped her hands together and beamed, apparently unsettled on something without asking either of you. Okay. I'm gonna be a professional golfer. Brett, you and Cove can be a beach volleyball player, a gymnast, or a tennis player. Why can't we pick anything we want? Because I have a fun idea, that's why. And we have to play sports as adults? Yep. But there's other kinds of sports too. It isn't the same. Oh, what do you think, Brett? Don't those trends sound super cool? You want to be that, huh? I mean, honestly, is there anything else we can be? Lizzie stomped a foot on the ground. Nope, come on, just decide already. Knowing Lizzie wouldn't let this go anytime soon, you sighed. Cove was not impressed with Lizzie's attitude, though he didn't bother talking more about it now. He thought over the list of possibilities: beach volleyball, gymnastics, or tennis. Out of all of them, you'd prefer to play tennis. You remembered mommy had a couple of tennis rackets lying around somewhere, but you forgot where you had set them last. You could check the attic for them, although Lizzie probably wouldn't let you run off and do that now that she had you here. Yes, that was clearly the top option. Okay, I'm gonna be a tennis player. How about you, Cove? I picked volleyball. I should have known. Okay, so Brett, you're a famous tennis player, and Cove, you're on a popular volleyball team, and Lizzie's ponytail bobbed when she proudly stretched her arms wide. We're Olympic athletes who just compete in the Olympics. Cove didn't seem all that impressed with the announcement. He made a face and adjusted the glasses on his nose. That's really specific. That's what makes it fun. Anyway, Lizzie marched back and forth in front of both of you, getting lost in her own imagination. I won all gold medals and people are all calling me the next Mickey Wright. Who's that? Lizzie stopped on the spot and turned on him, her brown eyes shine with impatience. It doesn't matter if you know who she is, it's a golf thing. You guys won medals too. Cove, your team was bronze, and Brett, you barely missed on the gold and silver. It's more real for not all first place. Yeah, hey. We can do better than silver. You bet it, Lizzie. I'm happy with the decision. Brett's right. Lots of people lose at the Olympics. Them's the breaks. Then you're the one who did, not me. Lizzie looked taken aback by Cove's declaration, as though the thought of her losing was completely absurd. No way, it wouldn't make sense. I'm already practicing my golf game. She took a golfing stance to make her point, pretending to swing her club and hit an invisible ball. So what kind of house do you live in? Cove hadn't changed his mind about winning, but thinking about where he had lived as an adult appealed to him, apparently, because he looked back at Lizzie with some anger fading. I'm gonna live on the beach. Lizzie made a face at him, poking her tongue out. That's kind of boring, we already have that. No, not like the normal houses here with the street. On it, right on the sand, by the water. Just like that, all the tension was back. You hadn't even noticed, you didn't have a chance to choose where you want to live. That's not very fun or smart, Cove. You can't live on a bunch of sand and shells. Oh, little do you know. Just go to, well, actually, I was gonna say go to Amity Beach. No, don't live in Amity Beach. There's a famous shark that lives there, and who knows if there's any more there, but I want to, and I will. Cove narrowed his eyes at Lizzie, even though she stood half a head taller than him. You didn't give out a list of things to pick from this time, so I'm picking that. Why are we even pretending if we can't imagine anything? That's a good point. Well, I'm gonna live in a mansion far away from you and far away from you. One with an indoor pool and a place to practice my award-winning golfing. How come were you yelling about mine when your idea is even more impossible? Lizzie's face flustered red, her hands balling into fists at her sides. It is not impossible, and it's better than yours. Disagreements always seem to crop up when the two of them were together, and you felt like you were stuck in the middle. That was kind of like my childhood. Well, actually, I don't know. No, to be fair, like, well, I would say like before first grade, yeah, like up to pre-K for me. I was always like on one of the spectrums on the like the fighting ends, but then like through elementary, middle school, and even high school, I became the middle person for the most part. That's like an honest truth there. Like if there was like fighting between like one of my friends and another group of friends or something like that, you know, like drama, typical school drama, I was always in between. I'm just like, why am I in the crossfire every time? But anyways, I mean, you were tired to decide between either. I'm just like, whatever. That's why you didn't manage to engage with the bigger. Instead, dreamt out of your own dream house. Yep. And you weren't going to share your idea with them either. You already knew it was a good one. You can swim whenever you want if you live on the beach. We can still swim anytime we want where we live now. Being a little closer doesn't mean anything, says you. The two of them scowled at each other. You're being so unreasonable. You. I don't get what you want. This game doesn't make sense. It does. You have to be realistic. I said that. But you're not. You had no idea what to do to make them stop at this point. It seemed like the two of them would just keep working each other up as long as they could. Nothing you said so far had kept them from being mad. Thankfully, like a greeting card angel, Mom walked into the room. Lizzie rushed to her, hanging onto the hem of her shirt and poking her out tongue at Cove. Lizzie, Brett, it's time to get ready to go. Sorry you have to leave, Cove. Their mommy said she'll walk you home so you won't be left in the cold. Cove was still glaring at Lizzie, his face flushed with red and with anger. I can go myself, but... Bye, Brett. There was still a harsh edge to the brief farewell, but you knew it wasn't you he was mad at. Without giving Mom a chance to stop him, Cove stood up and walked out to the room, shoulders drawn tight. Okay. Worried, Mom turned to look down at you and Lizzie. You two were playing nice with our new friend, weren't you? I mean, of course I tell the truth. I mean, it's... I mean, why would I lie? But yeah, I told the truth. We were playing pretend, things got intense. They were like cats and dogs. Your sister's jaw dropped, looking betrayed as Mom put both her hands on her hips. Elizabeth, I told you to be kind to him. He's having a hard time right now. Lizzie's mouth closed back up, replaced by a tiny frown. I know, I tried, but he was... No buts. We both know you can show someone a great time when you put your mind to it. We're going to apologize to Cove and his dad over the phone when he gets home from work tonight. Lizzie hugs her head, dragging a foot across the ground in front of her. Okay, Mom. Good girl. You caught pieces of Lizzie sulking to herself about how it was his fault too, but it was over. All right, we better get a move on. Nolani, where did you leave the keys? Mom hustled all you out the door, and you noticed during the car ride to golf practice that Lizzie was quieter than usual. She was usually the first one to request which music to listen in the car, but she didn't say a thing. Your parents noticed she wasn't in the mood to be bothered. They gave her space, and Mommy just asked you what you'd like to listen to. You picked your favorite song, always made the car fun. You chose the soundtrack to a cool movie you saw a couple months. You chose a song you knew Lizzie liked. Yeah, I mean, well, I'm a nice person. I would think I'd be nice, but you were happy to see it brighten her up right away. She started singing along with you. Soon enough, her bad mood was a thing of the past. When the car ride was over, you spent the twilight hours watching Lizzie hit things with other girls her age. You didn't know much about golf, but you could tell that she really liked it, so you sat with your moms and tried to puzzle it out. It was nice sitting outside after being cooped up in the house all day, and you stretch your arms and legs out to the last few minutes of sun warm your skin. When the sun was finally out of sight, dipping behind the horizon, you all got ready to leave. Instead of going straight home, your moms took the family out to dinner. You went to a restaurant you had all been going to ever since you could remember. The whole afternoon had been such a shouting had been a bunch of shouting you hadn't been able to stop, but you could kind of tell that all that helped Lizzie be less angry. The car ride home was quiet, the only radio providing escape from silence. Well, with only the radio providing an escape of silence, but Lizzie had been in better spirits now. But the closer you got to your neighborhood, the more she wiggled in her seat and frowned at the window. She knew what was coming when you all got back home. Clearly she was dreading it. Soon enough, Mom was turned onto your street, then reversing to the driveway. Once she cut the ignition, it was dead silent. No one spoke, only unbuckled their seatbelts and opened their doors. Lizzie was the last one out. Once everyone was inside and done taking off their shoes, she propped her hands on her hips. Now then, Mr. Holden's car's in the driveway, so he should be back from work. That's good news, isn't it, Elizabeth? You and Cove can hash things? I was making sure I read that right. You and Cove can hash things out before the day's done. Lizzie didn't complain or put a fight. Her head ducked so she didn't have to meet anyone's eyes. She nodded once. Good. Let's move to the kitchen. Mom went over to the house's phone, the rest of you following behind her. Mommy put a gentle hand on Lizzie's shoulder as they walked side by side. You watched them from the back. This was only happening because you told on Lizzie. I mean, yeah. Of course I don't like doing it, but at the same time, it's like she had to. I mean, she took it too far. It was just like, okay, well, like it's a childish thing, you know? I mean, that's the point where they're children. Like they're gonna argue over like the dumbest things. What, like, it's one of those things you won't recognize until like you actually like start growing up. But I would say like when you settle in on maturity, like especially like definitely for me, I kind of started recognizing that like in, I can't remember, I started like really recognizing like in my early 20s. It was around that time where I was like realizing like, god damn, there are some things I'm just like, why did I get so like up in the moment on like stupid things that didn't matter at the time. Like that's the thing, like especially when you're in grade school, it's one of those things where like the small things kind of like catch up to you. At least at my time it does, because it was different at the same time, because like you kind of you lived in your own world, if you will. Not to say it's still like that, it probably is, honestly, where everything's like the high school world and everything, and just like the grade school world is kind of like cooped up in like one big area, you know? You lived in your own world for the most part. But like the difference between then and now, I mean, nowadays, like I'm assuming so, at least since social media is such a big thing, it's like maybe it's different in that sense where it doesn't feel so cooped up, and instead like the world is definitely feel more expansive, if that makes any sense. But at the time when social media was still growing, where it literally primarily most of us use only Facebook at the time, like it was easy to like be kind of just like stuck in our own little bubble is what I meant. I say world, but in the bubble, and where we only knew like people from high school for the most part, but we didn't know anything about anything outside. Like influencers, or even like influencers were becoming a thing, but it was still like at the beginning stages. So like that's where it was at the time. But nowadays, like I'm assuming it's so much different. Like it's been almost 10 years since I graduated high school, which is actually insane to me. But anyways, but yeah, what I'm trying to get here is that yeah, I hadn't liked doing it, but I had to, you know, it's the right thing to do in my eyes. Being a tattletale didn't feel good. Yeah, it never does. Maybe a couple of times against my brother when I was little, but you know, thinking about it a lot of times, like man, I was such a tattletale at times. And I definitely grew out of that, like especially once I hit middle school, I think, or high school. That's when I became less of a tattletale. But and you wouldn't want someone else to tell your moms everything you did. Yeah, exactly. Still, your mom asked directly, and you wanted to be a liar even less. The four of you stood around the kitchen in a lopsided square. All eyes were on Lizzie, who kept her gaze on her feet. You remember the number for Co's house, don't you, honey? Lizzie jerked her head in another nod, sullen. Without further prompting, she stepped forward and she began to dial. Mom reached over and pressed a button on the base. Suddenly, you could hear the phone ringing. She turned on the speaker. The phone rang a couple times, then stopped. Mr. Holden's warm voice came through the other end. Evening, Holden's resident. My nose is stuffy there, but Holden's residence? Lizzie looked over at Mommy, unsure. She nodded encouragingly. Hi, Mr. Holden. It's, Lizzie. Can I talk to Cove? Lizzie Arnold, what a surprise, but of course you can say hey to the boy. He sounded cheery as usual, though definitely meant it when he said it was a surprise. You thought hard, and you were sure that your sister had never called Co's house before. Mom spoke up to Mr. Holden, and Lizzie could say anything more. Her arms were crossed over her chest, her lips pursed. Hi, Cliff, Nolani, Brett, and I are here too. Good evening. We're sorry to bother you so late. Yeah, I spoke to say hello too. Hi, Mr. Holden. The gang's all here, huh? Is something the matter? His voice grew a bit concerned. Mommy was quick to reassure him. No, well, yes, but it's going to be okay. Lizzie and Cove got into a bit of a fight today, and we were hoping that the two of them could talk and make up. Is this a good time for you and Cove? A fight? Cove didn't tell me anything about that when I came home. It does explain the funk he's been in tonight. He chuckled lightly. Despite that, it didn't seem like he really thought it was funny. Anyway, it's good that you didn't catch us at a bad time. I'll go grab him for you. There was some shuffling on the other end. He must have gone far because you could still hear him calling out. Cove, there's someone here for you. After a beat of silence, there was a muffled talking from Cove's dad. Come on, bud. Lizzie called so she could just talk to you. Brett's on the other end listening too. Don't you want to say hi? It took a bit of back and forth, though the conversation one-sided since he couldn't hear Cove properly. Eventually, Cove took the phone from his dad. Hello? Oh, hey, it's Lizzie. Yeah, I know. Dad told me. Cove's tone was defensive. Lizzie turned to Mom, scowling. One stern look from her, though, and Lizzie turned away. I just called to say... I'm sorry for not playing nice with you today. I won't do it again. Lizzie's eyes were downcast, her voice low. You could tell she felt uncomfortable apologizing to Cove in front of everyone. She was still being genuine about feeling bad. Cove must have realized that too because he sighed quietly. Me and Brett should get gold too. That's right. Lizzie, I kept denying you two what you deserved. Lizzie was momentarily stunned by that demand. She probably forgot that even happened already. All right. We all win the gold. Okay. I guess I'm sorry too. A sense of relief washed over everyone at his acceptance of the apology. Mom uncrossed her arms while Mommy's shoulders relaxed. Lizzie's eyebrows raised up. You wonder if she thought she would refuse her apology. Dad, can I get off the phone now? You couldn't see him, but it was obvious that Cove felt awkward about the situation. He had come off uncomfortable the entire time, really. Yeah, you can go back to your room if you want. Be sure to say goodbye first, though. Bye, Lizzie. Bye. Bye, Brett. You perked up at the mention of your name. You smiled even if you didn't see it. Bye, Cove. With that said, Cove must have handed the phone to his dad and left since Mr. Holden spoke up. All's well that ends well, as they say. Thanks for arranging this. I'm sure he appreciates it. As Mom replied, Lizzie tugged on Mommy's hand to catch her attention. Can I go now, too?
Good job.
Sure, sweetie. Thank you very much for apologizing to Cove. Mom flashed a brief smile at Lizzie and nodded her arrangement. Given permission to leave, Lizzie scurried off towards the stairs. She seemed to be feeling much better with the incident behind her. Mom and Mommy returned to their phone, taking it off speaker. They continued talking to Mr. Holden. You couldn't tell what about. You were glad that was the end of it all, though. Lizzie and Cove might not get along and probably still won't, but they weren't mad at each other anymore. Mom and Mommy weren't upset either. Everything was finally back to normal. With that thought, you retreated to your own room with a spring to your step. And that was the grown-up one, and we do have to stop it here, unfortunately, though. But I did hope you enjoyed this moment. We have 3 more moments left, and then we move on to the next phase. I forgot how to English, but we move on to the next phase of our life. No pun intended, but I did hope you enjoy. If you did like it, please go ahead, leave a like and share it if you did enjoy it. And of course, I'll see you awesome later with another episode. I'm hoping on Sunday or Monday. We'll see. It depends. It depends. Definitely tomorrow you'll get another Dramatical Murder episode. So stay tuned for that as we get the happy ending. We get the hospital ending. Well, it's not. That makes it sound bad, but it was actually a good ending. You guys know what I'm talking about when I say that. So I'm sure you're looking forward to that on your Saturday. But again, as you guys know, most of that is 1000% going to be up on Patreon for obvious reasons. Anyways, outside of that, I am going to be live streaming maybe tonight, most likely tonight. In fact, it'll be really late. So just giving you guys a heads up again because I do have work tonight. So till 9 o'clock, in fact, 9 p.m. Central Time. So when I say it's going to be late, it's going to be a late stream. But other than that, thank you awesomes for watching. Again, this game is free. If you haven't checked it out, check it out in the description box down below. And until then, I'll see you awesomes later, okay? Love ya, and don't forget to stay awesome.